Hey everyone, welcome to the FNG Author Podcast. We are three guys that have all just basically got into writing, kind of all second careers, and we all love science fiction and love military science fiction, and we're looking to just kind of walk our journey along with you guys, and hopefully everyone can pull something out of this. I am Brent Gaskey. I am a very, very new author. Signed my first deal with Athon Books, pushing a year ago now. It was a 3-book deal, and kind of jumped into the deep end of the pool. So one of those exciting things that I never expected to be part of my life. I always wanted to write and wasn't quite sure how to do that. And so attended some conferences, did some things to learn the proper way of doing that. And so that's where I'm at now. Me before I was a firefighter paramedic for 31 years in a small town in Oregon. Kind of did it all, everything from hazardous materials response to swift water rescue to name the discipline, and I was a part of it at some point. So a lot of experience there. So I'm coming from the fire side, the EMS side. Don't have any military experiences, but my other two guys that I'm with have long history careers in the military, and I will turn it over to Will, and he can give you his background as well.
Hi, folks. I'm Will Crudge. I am a author, more specifically military science fiction with a little bit of space opera in my background. I've got 33 books that have been released, and 2.5 that are unreleased and are forthcoming. I started off completely indie. I wrote a nonfiction book that I don't want anybody to ever read in my entire life in 2015. And but one thing I learned really fast was that nonfiction is very, very easy if you're knowledgeable on the subject. And I was overconfident, and I tried to jump into space opera, and I found out really quick I didn't know what I was doing. I made so many mistakes, and fast forward several books later, I finally built up the confidence and the skill set I thought I needed to submit something to Athon Books, which is also my publisher, and history was made. It brought me to this point right here, and I'm not looking back. So, but I have 26 years in the U.S. military. I'm an old soldier. And speaking of old soldiers, we have a Canadian soldier here, Gary. Why don't you take it away? Gary, your mic.
I think you're muted, bro.
My apologies. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary. Tough to follow up that with his 30-some books. Retired Canadian soldier, 22 years, released medically, and started writing for therapy. I was lucky enough to have a friend who thought I had something, so I kept on writing, and I pushed it to Athon more for they'll never get back to me, and they did. So now I'm having my one series coming out, and just got signed on for another 3-book series. So it's a learning experience. We all came together in this environment because we're writing books, we're getting them out there, but we don't know what we're doing. So we're really hoping that we'll learn more, and anybody who wants to watch us and follow us, click like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll do this journey together from beginning to end.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Like, we all met doing this process, didn't know each other before, and we followed each other, met on a Discord, and here we are now. So just shows that you can do more things after one career.
And I apologize.
Go ahead, man. Do your thing.
I was just going to say, we might all be science fiction authors, but that doesn't mean that there aren't universal aspects to any genre of writing, especially fiction in general. So we're going to talk about a lot of topics that would affect any writer, regardless of genre. Now, locking in your genre is probably the single most important thing that you can do as a writer. But we're going to talk about all of it. And yeah, we will be coming from our perspectives, which is a science fiction background. However, we'll try to do our best to make sure when universal points are made that apply to other genres that we point that out.
I always kind of looked at fiction as a story. It's just a story. And when you write your story, you have to decide, do you want others to hear your story, or is it just for yourself? And that, to me, was my first lesson when I was writing my first book, Survivor's War, was, yes, this is therapeutic and I'm enjoying this, but I actually want people to read this story. So I found I had to... That's when just sitting down at the Starbucks and writing your American bestseller ends and your research and everything starts. And that's what, I like how you said that, Will, that, yeah, we're science fiction, but fiction is fiction. Whatever the genre is, it's still a story. And as an author, especially a new one, you have to decide, do you want other people to hear your story? Because if you do, then you're going to have to take it back a bit. You're going to have to adjust and make it for a larger crowd.
Yeah. I attended 20 books to 50K a couple of years, which is it was a massive writing conference, like 3,000 people there, and it covered every genre. So, I was specifically going for to really learn about sci-fi and to kind of figure out like what it takes to be a sci-fi author. And the first year I specifically took classes only for sci-fi. Like if it was a sci-fi author, I was in the class. And then the second year, I just expanded a little bit, and I said, you know what, it was great to take these classes, but I want to find out what writing in general is. And so I started taking classes from I sat through some romance classes. I sat through some I think I sat through one class that was on like erotic fiction or something, right? Just to kind of just to broaden it out and see, like, it was a different experience.
When you're writing that book, Brent.
Yeah, that's forthcoming, but
with an unknown pen name.
Exactly. But exactly what you guys are talking about is, sci-fi is a specific version of fiction in general, right? And it's no different than a cozy mystery or a urban fantasy to some degree, right? That we're all writing very similar structures and everything else. So there's a ton to get out of this, even if you're not necessarily sci-fi specific or mill sci-fi specific, or kind of the backgrounds that we came from.
Absolutely.
The one thing I noticed with myself, even, I wasn't a huge reader. Like, I just, you know how it is. You're kind of on the go. You got a wife, kids, life gets in the way. So then I got into Audible again. Audible was the best thing because I just started listening to books again and opened up my imagination. Like, started off with Craig Allenson, Jeremy Robinson, Rick Partlow, Jeffrey Haskell, like all these guys, and hearing their stories and just allowing my mind to open up was what I decided to. I want to write these stories, because one thing I think the best fiction writers out there is you're not happy with what's out here currently. Or it's not scratching that itch you're looking for, right? So write it yourself. Like whether it's science fiction, fantasy, lit RPG, what have you. If you think you could do better, try it, because there's so many people out there writing right now. And again, that's the great thing about what we're doing here is, like, Will, we're going to pick your brain a lot on this, buddy. You go onto Amazon, write Mr. Will Crudge's name in the search bar, and you're going to see a lot of books. And a lot of those books he did himself. Covers, paying for marketing. If I'm not mistaken, Will, when you say it kind of ruined a bit of the writing process for you by doing the publishing?
Oh, it's certainly not the fun part. It's the true grind. You have to be, if you're gonna jump into it, in the indie arena, you have to have the mentality that this is a labor of love. This is a labor of love. Don't.
Someone may not even look at.
Yeah, it's because I'm not saying that you can't write the great American novel and be a huge smash hit, like an Andy Weir or something like that, because he started off as an indie writer on Amazon, and his career took off when that exploded. But that is the exception, not the rule.
Let me ask you
Unusual
guys
case
this.
too.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, a lot of people go, "Oh, Andy Weir wrote The Martian. He wrote all these Ad Astra. He wrote the new movie that escapes my mind right now." But they don't realize Hail Mary. Thank you. But they don't realize this guy has a huge catalog of books. So although the world has heard of these 3 books, he's wrote a lot of different stories, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, you have those great American novels, but how many novels had to be written beforehand? Or what had to happen to get that in its place? And I think real authors write not trying to get a movie deal, but they're wanting to get their story out.
So let me ask you guys this, and I think this is something that applies to all of us, and maybe where we're entering the publishing industry versus somebody who came in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. You mentioned audio, Gary, and that Audible was a big thing for you. I'm sure it was for you too, Will. Like, you probably listened to your share of audiobooks. The majority of my existence was driving an ambulance back and forth between hospitals from time to time, right? So you get a shift on the ambulance, and you're just hours in the rig doing whatever. And I found myself listening to audiobooks, and it became a big deal. The question that I have for you guys is, does being informed that audio is a big part of today's audience, does it change the way that you write? Do you write for audio, or do you write because you write the way you want to write and then hope that it comes out good on audio?
How I found it with me was, especially for my new series, Fracture Point, I found when I'm writing, I actually hear characters' voices in my head sometimes. Like certain characters that I'm writing, okay, this person sounds like this actor. But it's not because I want that to be in a movie. I actually find it actually helps me put that character's emotions out better. And even though I'm hearing it in my head, I'm writing how I hear it and writing it. And I think I was lucky enough, especially with the Dajjal character in Fracture Point, where that aristocratic drawl for an ancient alien race in another dimension was still somewhat relatable because I was actually writing it to an actor that people would know. But I also had to check myself, knowing that if it was taken by Athon, unfortunately it was, and it got an audio, that isn't how it was going to sound either. So it does that make sense?
Well, yeah, what I discovered after listening to my own work that was done by Athon by a very brilliant voice actor named Deontay Black. And
we're going to maybe have on the show, right? Deontay, like he might
possibly, yeah. I think he's excited to come out.
He's also doing my book right now.
Cool.
Right. So what I discovered is his imagination and his ability to give life to those characters was something I didn't anticipate. I didn't write the book thinking audio. I didn't. I wrote it in my concise style, the way I thought military science fiction should write. I was very deliberate with my prose and everything. The audio was really after the fact, but now that I've listened to my work over audio done by a real voice actor, not like voice narration AI generated anything, but an actual voice actor, it didn't necessarily change the way I write, but it changed how I made my decisions when it came to acronyms or military terminology. I needed to be very, very specific because Deontay, God bless him, he's just not a veteran. And He did struggle with some acronyms and stuff. He did a great job. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally pleased. But
Well, case in point, I don't mean to interrupt you, Will, but the
no, go
hua
ahead.
part. We talked about this earlier, like when he said hua in the book, it was like, what? Like he did a yell. And I'm like, oh, well, it means this. And Will's like, no, it doesn't. So it just goes to show when you're writing, something you say means something different to other people.
Could be.
I found my naming conventions and the way that I wanted to name people or planets or whatever. I tried to make them more easily pronounceable than, like you look at mid 80s sci-fi and like every single name in there has 2 apostrophes and 3 X's and a number thrown in someplace. And I thought, well, that's great if you're reading it, but if I have to have, if there's a voice actor who's trying to pronounce all these things, it ends up becoming a nightmare at some point, and the potential for it going wrong is significantly higher than if I just name something, klaxon or something like that, something that's easily pronounceable. So, I found it did change the way that I did a lot of my naming schemas and things.
Well, one thing I found, I don't know if you noticed. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Will.
No, I was just saying the 2 things that I noticed really from that is watch my exclamation points. So the voice actor isn't raising his voice for no reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can explain something and you put an exclamation point there, but it's not necessarily denoting volume, it's denoting emphasis. And yeah, maybe consider using a period unless you really want that voice actor to be shouting. So it's little things like that taken again. That and the antagonist for one of my books, Battle Space Nomad. In my mind, his name is pronounced Ramus. In the audiobook, he called him Ramus, and I decided that is now canon because I like that better.
And it's original.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed with audiobooks that's a bit dangerous too, though, guys, is you guys have heard the book of the series, The Expeditionary Force, right, by Craig Allenson. It's a great series. It's long. Like they're on book 19 now, I believe.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I've seen it lingering out there.
It's a fun series. But the reality of it is it was solely narrated by the narrator god R.C. Bray. Now, unfortunately, R.C. is having issues with his throat. He's had to cut back a lot of his stuff. But what I've been seeing online, especially in this group, is people like, well, I'm not going to listen if he's not narrating. Which is kind of like, well, cool, awesome loyalty to the narrator. But it's like, especially this Facebook group I'm part of, we're here for the story, not the reader, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the other issue with Audible kind of being so big as it is does that affect who's listening to your book? If they don't connect with the narrator, or if you have to switch narrators for some reason. So
That brings
doing
up
a
a
full
good
circle
point,
on
though.
the audiobook thing, right? It's kind of like, it's great. Audible, like from what I understand, that's where you make your money. I don't know yet, but it's a little terrifying that something could happen, or just a voice can change how your book's received in the larger group.
It does feel a little bit like it's almost like a movie deal, right? Where like I made my baby and I'm going to hand it off to whoever is going to produce this now and make it something different, and you're going to get a different interpretation than what you had in your head. Going back to your point of my guy sounded like this, but now this audio producer is going to go make this into whatever he's going to make it into. And it makes me wonder, like Dungeon Crawler Carl, right? All the hotness right now. I mean, Amazon or Aethon and Amazon both are they're pushing it like crazy, and rightfully so. It's a good book or a good series.
So actually, he's getting a TV show as well.
Yeah, but it's that thing that, like, do you think Dungeon Crawler Carl or anything by R.C. Bray, or pick your voice actor, would those books be as popular if they didn't have that input from, and I forget the guy's name who did Denneman's book. He's amazing.
Like, Jeff Hayes.
Stunningly amazing. Yeah, Jeff Hayes. Right. Just an amazing guy, right? would that book be where it is today if he didn't do, the Carl, the donut that he does?
And all the DCC content that comes across TikTok is all in that narrator's voice because it is very epic and memorable. But keep circling back to being a beginning indie author and not knowing where to start. Audiobooks, that's like step 11.
Yes, very much so.
Well, eventually, I want to ask you this, Will, because you're experienced, man. You have spent so much of your time while serving and after you got out writing and putting your stuff out there. For the new writers out there who might be listening or listening in a couple of weeks after we get popular, what stressed you out then that now you don't even think about?
Well, I have the benefit of retiring from the military, which puts me in a unique position. Back then, I was just like any other indie author that's starting off, with a day job, I was active duty military. So needless to say, my time was precious. Mm-hmm. And the balancing the writing with keeping up with my career and keeping up with my family obligations and just living life in general, that was huge. But at the time I was writing strictly as a hobby, with the hopes that it would turn into something. I was never expecting to make it big as a writer while I was still serving. I was trying to set the stage for a future opportunity when I had more time to do it. So, but the biggest thing is that relates to being a new author is carving out that time. Is because you need time to learn, not just write. There are several steps that I would recommend you do before you ever put the first sentence on paper. Mm-hmm. And
why don't you throw a couple of those our way?
Well, first of all, you need to decide what kind of writer you are. Are you going to be a writer that is going to write something commercially viable, or are you going to write it for an audience of one? So you pick you pick your genre and you roll with it. You have to really understand the genre well enough to write in it and be confident. I would recommend, my biggest recommendation is you take the commercially successful books in your genre, your top books that are succeeding, not just lightning in a bottle, but especially authors that consistently do well, and read their work and take notes and figure out the prose, figure out the tropes.
So write what you know. Is that a major point of that?
Writing what you know is key.
Yeah. Writing
what you know is key, but you have to hone in on that audience and be true to it. So, and then there's the concept: are you going to be a pants writer or are you going to be an outliner? And I'm here to tell you, I'm a very good pants writer, and it's a very hard habit to break. So I have broken myself of it because many of my works have been done by pantsing. And for those of you not familiar with that term, that means writing by the seat of your pants. Mm-hmm. Having an idea and just cranking it out, which works.
No outline, right? You're just going with whatever's coming.
Yeah.
Vague idea, maybe some notes that you jotted down on a piece of paper, that kind of thing. I pride myself away from it because that was I loved getting into a flow state with my ADHD, and you get the hyper focus going, and you're like, space battle, But then I realized, I was missing opportunities. There were hooks that I wasn't closing out the way I wanted to. The pace of the book could fluctuate, and then I realized that you'll catch yourself writing a bunch of filler sometimes when you're trying to go from one scene to the next part of the scene. And that's dangerous because the readers can pick up when you're just writing crap. When you're writing crap pages, the readers are going to figure it out, and they're going to hold you to it. Trust me, they've held me to it. So, outlining. I use the snowflake method, which we'll probably discuss in intimate detail in later episodes, but I highly recommend it. It is a very...
It is available on Audible.
It's available on Audible. I prefer the audiobook, to be honest. That's what I listen to. But the biggest thing is with outlining is you want a structure. You want organized chaos. You want to capture all the hooks you want to capture. All your ideas, you want to cram it in there, but you want to make it seem like it's like this orderly construct. Am I going to be writing in a 3-act format, a 4-act format, that kind of thing? If you're starting out, all that can be daunting. You're like, what act? I don't what are you talking about?
Well, it's like when I started, Will. Like I had my beginning, and I knew how this story was going to end, and I knew it was going to take 3 books to tell the story, or one really long one. I went with the 3 shorter ones. But again, I was doing by the seat of your pants, and then I realized doing a space battle, for example, I've been let down so much by reading some of those scenes and stuff like that. So that's when I had to outline my battle. I had to actually respect the reader, that when they read or listened to this battle, they were picturing it, or they felt they could feel this was actually happening, not just somebody making stuff up as they go with big sci-fi words. So with that, I want to ask you, Will, when did you notice that the advice you might have received as a beginning author, you realized probably wasn't the best advice to be given authors, hence why we're doing this and trying to give new authors or anybody trying to get out there?
Well, that's an interesting question because a lot of it is irrelevant now because the market has changed so much. A lot of what worked 10 years ago will not work now. It's vestigial. You have your book bubs and the marketing tools for indie authors. All that stuff. It's less effective now than it used to be.
Yeah.
So a lot of how I got started, really, if it wasn't for the intrepid sci-fi author M.D. Cooper, I would not be here right now because M.D. Cooper taught me about formatting, taught me about editing, taught me about writing with tunnel vision. Keeping your POV. That was my worst problem, really, in my first series. My first series went through a lot of iterations, and it's still not the way I want it, but I lost the original manuscripts thanks to the government's computer system. That was my fault for not backing it up. But continuity, changing in POVs, the technical writing aspects. He pulled me back from the brink because the only thing I knew was effective Army writing skills that the Army had taught me through the NCO Academy. And it doesn't apply to normal English, trust me.
That is such a hard thing to break, right? And I think all 3 of us kind of came from that same kind of an experience where you wanted your writing as Spartan and as terse and as small as you could make it to fit into a report, right? Or to make it as legible as possible.
Right, getting the bottom line up front.
Yeah, my first writing was exactly like that, right? It was absolutely, I was writing a report, right? It was like this person did this thing and then this, and it was like I went back and I'm like, oh, this is garbage. I've got to go in and actually like make this a fun thing to read, not like you're reading through an AAR after an incident. So.
Or like an Intel brief where you're giving 12 hours of activity in a 5-minute at the most PowerPoint brief, right?
Exactly.
I found that right in my first book, like big on the M breaks and all this and that because I was trying to get everything out. And again, I was doing seat of my pants writing for the first book, and I was like, this can't work. So for the second book, I'm like, okay, no more end breaks. I was like, I gotta make my sentences longer. I gotta pretty much reteach myself how to write. And I love that you brought that up, Will, because I find in today's day and age of texting and quick communications, people may get frustrated when they're trying to actually write a book now and go, how come I can't reach 100,000 words? I've told my story, but it's such small sentences and pop, pop, pop that you have to build your world, do all that, and then go forward. So I found that
Right.
was a big challenge for me, but I'm glad I passed it. But yeah.
Now, I mean, but the challenge is ongoing because your style is going to evolve. The more you write, the more you evolve, the more lessons you learn and apply. And what I noticed is my work now has a cadence to it. There's a rhythm, and I'm taking almost like a poetic meter. I'm taking, you know, taking my pacing and setting it up for what the reader needs to see, and then boom, I'll abruptly change it with a short sentence, and then change the
Yeah.
vibe, that kind of thing, as I'm building tension or I'm trying to introduce a new plot point. And that stuff, to me now, it happens instinctively. But it took me a long time to get to that point. I mean, 30 something books. A lot of my earlier ones, I wouldn't recommend you'd read, to be honest. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. And let me be a cautionary tale, you know, to always making sure that you put the extra time in your editing. And for the love of God, hire somebody decent to make your covers.
Gary, how did your, and I know, so Will talked about, like, Will did it just through putting words down, right? I mean, you write 30 books and you figure out what works and what doesn't work, right? I went a little bit of a different route in that I went to a lot of classes. I took a lot of, like, formal schooling on how to actually write a book before I ever put pen to paper.
And to be honest, it shows.
Figure out. What's that?
To be honest, it shows. I haven't read your current novels yet because you're still working on them, but I have read your short stories, and they're pretty damn solid.
Thank
I
you.
got to read your first book of your series yet to be published, so I feel honored on that. And it's, dude, reading your book, I was like, I need to go back to school. Like, so.
Well, and I guess my point was I went a different route with that, right? I could have written a million words and done all my screw ups, and I was lucky enough that I learned from a lot of really good people that were able to teach me, the Josh Hayeses of the world and the Scott Moons and those guys that kind of, much like you guys are talking about with your mentors, kind of took me under their wing and said, hey, here's how you do this, here's how you fix this, here's how you whatever. And hugely helpful to have those people in your life. Gary, what was your experience like? Where did you? Because I mean, you don't get a contract without being able to write, right? So like, you guys are all writing excellent stuff.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah, I'm an anomaly. Like, first book I wrote, I got published. And like, I think it was you, Will, or Brian, who said that's like the 1% of the 1% of writers is just getting published. But I owe it to respecting the trade craft and respecting the written word, like I alluded to earlier. So for me, when I write, when I finish a chapter, because I know the story, it's in my head. I'm like, and now I have templates, so I know where I'm going. So when I write, like chapter 7, I just finished chapter 7 of the third book of the Survivor War series, and it took me a bit longer to write it, so it took me a bit longer to edit it. So I edited that chapter. I made sure, first of all, there was no spelling mistakes, the grammar was sound. And because I'm Canadian, I had to make sure that I spelled defense right and color wrong and all this stuff for the American press. But by doing that per chapter, I then went into my chapter 8, knowing that I don't have to worry about chapter 7. So when my book's done, I've already ensured that the chapters flow, the writing's solid, the corrections are made. So when it comes back from an editor, they're not like, oh my God, what did you do? But because I did it this way, I also kind of feel like, we've talked about this, like an imposter, if you will. Because I have nothing to fall back on. Like, every author I love has works that they did that either weren't popular, and mine still may not be popular. Like, yes, I got a publishing deal and all that. Book doesn't come out till the 19th of May. So I don't know how it's going to do. It may do very well. It may do enough to break even. It may be enough for Athon to go, you know what, we're just going to do these and then take care. That there's nothing for sure in the writing world. But they saw enough in it to take that chance with me. So I then took that as I must make sure I write better and hone my craft and make sure my writing improves. So my hope is somebody who reads or listens to book 1 of Survivor's War, then listens to book 3 of Survivor's War, not only sees the story improve, but also the writing improve, because it's a journey for everybody. So, long story short, I just try to do the best I can with the way I write, because getting published too fast can be a huge motivator if you take it that way. Like, instead of going, oh, I'm a published author. No, I'm now more terrified to screw up. So I want to make sure my chapters are better, my characters are stronger, and people want to keep reading it, because I feel that I didn't have that bar to set. Yeah. Like, you get that, like you said, Will, there, like, your first books, you don't even recommend people reading them. And that's amazing.
They're fun stories, but they're not necessarily the best execution.
Right. So if you were to read Will Crudge's book 1 of his first series and Project Nomad, you're going to be like, wow, completely different, like, author.
I think you just combined 2 of my titles together into one.
I'm just trying to get you max advertising, buddy.
That's the next series that he's writing, is the crossover between the two.
Right?
Well, they're
Operation
in the same
Save
universe.
Book 1.
But no. I'm glad you said that, Gary, because that's very true. You're taking a totally different path, and look, it's like Brent said. You know, your writing is definitely good enough for Athon, which says something, because they've got pretty strict gatekeepers. I mean, there's a lot of good writers I've known them to turn away. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it's not the writing that turns them away. Granted, I'm not a gatekeeper and I can't speak for Athon, so I'm not going to be able to say anything with authority.
They may be guests in the future.
I think I think I can comfortably say that Athon is not gonna. They're gonna look at the book as, can we turn a profit on this? Is this genre
exactly? Because let's be clear, this is about making money for them. Like,
right.
That's the other part where we alluded to, right? Like, your book is art. Like, whatever story you write is art. But if you want to be published, and if you want people to read your book, the art then turns into a business.
Yeah.
Especially on the indie side. On the indie side, you got to wear.
You would know, buddy. You would know. Yeah.
You got to wear 3 hats. You're the writer, then you're the marketer, then you're the production manager.
I had somebody ask me the other day what it cost me. So I have a little completely unrelated to science fiction. I've got a little book that's out there that's for new firefighters. And somebody asked me, like, what did it cost to do that? And I'm like, well, it was like $300. Like, it cost me almost nothing, because I did every bit of the work myself. I did the cover. You do all of that, right? And you can do it cheap, but you're going to pay for it in hours, right? And so it's those kind of things that people don't realize, that, like, if you're going to do the indie thing, you're talking the labor of love. You're talking about dropping a ton of hours into something to hope that it pays off in the end. And if you didn't write to market, if you didn't hit all of the things that is going to make that a success, and be an expert to be able to pull all those things out, it's gonna fail. And I think that's the super frustrating thing for people sometimes, is when they don't necessarily understand writing to market, or they don't understand what a good cover looks like, or they don't understand what marketing looks like. And those are the hard things that a new author sometimes struggles with, because they don't have the insights into what it takes to make that happen.
See, it's funny you say that, because I caught myself thinking this the other day, guys, because I was looking at your catalog, Will, and I wonder how many authors out there who wrote a great story but executed it poorly in the marketing, the advertising, the cover, everything, that not only it didn't catch anybody's attention, but the writer stopped writing because of that. Like, and that's the thing that I know everybody writes and they want to be published. Like, that's, if you say you don't, you're a liar. I'm sorry. That's just Gary's 2 cents there. Did any of us actually think Athon would sign us? I don't think any of us felt that. I'm pretty sure all of us felt that same stomach knot excitement when we got the email from Rhett saying, "Hey, we love your book. We want to sign you." And that's when I realized I know nothing about this process. And then talking to you guys, oh my God, we know nothing about this process. But like with me having 6 books coming out in the next 2 years, you're having 3 to 6 books coming out in the next 2 years, Brent, and you are like going to have 40 books probably out there in the next 2 years. Will all this work, all this time, all this effort, and we still don't know anything. Hence why this podcast exists, in case anybody's wondering. It's just not 3 dudes wanting to hear themselves talk. We want to help people along this route, because even being published, because one thing about Athon, like, they're fantastic, but you're an adult, right? So they take your book, you sign the contract, you'll get your edits when you get them, and then they'll let you know when it's coming out, which is fantastic, because you don't have to worry like Will did about, or you did, Brent, about the marketing, the covers and stuff like that. And then even when I got my cover for book 1 for Survivor's War, which I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, it was like I had to ask, well, how does this, did you go through the story, did you go to this and that? And he goes, no, the thing with the book cover is we want people to catch it. You want it to get that person's pop, and then they want to read your quick blurb about the book. Because has anybody gone on to Amazon and looking at books, for example, the books aren't like a bookstore. They're not categorized by publishing house or anything like that. They're just out there, right? So for somebody to take interest in your book, they have to notice it first in the amount of books that are out there. And that doesn't matter what genre you're in. Like, I think the most terrifying genre to be in, I think, would be romance. If you actually I just Googled it once for romance books, and the sheer number of books that are available, right?
It's the
research.
It's the lion share. No, it's the romance is the biggest genre of fiction out there right now, and it's a big moneymaker. If you can write in romance and you can dial into that genre and nail it, then the sky's the limit if you are good at the other stuff, like the marketing and curating a cover. Curating a cover is so important, and that's where you can lose a lot of money if you don't do it right. I have several of my old covers that I want to redo, and I probably will be redoing them shortly. But another thing that people don't realize is if you're indie publishing, like, you guys don't have to go through this, but if you're indie publishing, you got to set up the book entirely on the sales page. And Amazon requires you to give them keywords. You got to know your genre so well and do the keyword research yourself to, okay, when I type in the search bar looking for a specific book, what keywords are coming down in the drop down? How can I capture those keywords and apply it to my book? It's the tiny little details like that people don't ever talk about, but they make a huge difference, because it's all about discovery.
Yeah, I named my book Captain Salty's Fire Service Wisdom, right? Which I'm thinking,
I love that title.
What a great title. Like, that'll just knock it out of the park. Well, the top 39 things for Captain Salty on Amazon are a boat wash company out of Florida that sells boat wash to get salt off of your boat. And so, like, here is, like, I'm trying to compete against this frickin' multinational boat wash company that sells millions of, pounds of boat wash every month. I should have thought about that, right? Like, those are the things that, as an indie, you're like, oh, I can just write this great story and everybody will love it. And then, like, oh, I didn't realize I was competing against a boat wash company for my keyword for, to when you drop it into Amazon. So, good point.
And let's face it, we're all indie in the beginning, right? Like, nobody starts writing with a publisher. Like, we all had our different reasons for writing. So let me ask you then, guys, because I found this was the biggest thing for me. When did you find that this hobby became less a hobby and more your job?
Okay. This, for me, is because, when you're in the military for so long, it becomes part of your life. It becomes part of your identity, who you are, how you socialize, how you interact with people. The military culture is very specific. Any veteran will tell you that they might have served with some of the most deplorable human beings on the planet, but at the same time, they miss them like brothers and sisters. So making that transition to being a civilian only was pretty rough for me. And writing is what brought me back from the brink. I decided to write with a full-time author mentality, strictly for the sake of therapy. And that's what started it. And then next thing you know, my Blood and Metal series came out, and it didn't necessarily fly off the shelves, but it wasn't at the same time a complete failure. It's rated well, and when you do eventually have a book that does hit and hits well, your older stuff is going to get noticed.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many reviews it was, but I know that in the year and a half that Project Nemesis had been out, by the time Battle Space Nomad hit kind of big, within 3 months my review count for that series doubled.
Wow, that's awesome.
It matters. So it does matter to execute well, and keep cranking it out, because sooner or later, if you're doing everything right, sooner or later the odds will be stacked in your favor.
Yeah.
And you want to be ready for it. So you don't want to cut corners. You don't want to, but at the same time, we all have families to pay for. We have mouths to feed, and that's another thing is,
especially you.
Yeah, if you're going to get into the indie club, you need to have a budget.
I started. I wrote some stuff like even as a kid. I loved writing. I mean, I enjoyed it. The ADHD didn't help with that. I mean, I was kind of sporadic all over the place. Got into high school and was basically told by the majority of my high school teachers that you're a talentless hack who has no idea what he's doing, and you are not capable of writing a decent story, right? And so I took that with me for most of my career, right? And I always had stories in my head I wanted to write and things that I wanted to do, but always had that you're not capable of doing that. Like, that's not something that you can do. And then, much like the military, fire service, we were able to retire fairly early. So retired out at 50, went back to work for a hospital as an emergency manager, and did that for a couple of years. And working in corporate America, that is something that will absolutely just destroy your soul, which I didn't realize that going into it. But I'm sitting in my office one day, and I'm like, I can do my job in a couple of days a week. This is not difficult work to do with the background that I had. And so I said, well, what if I started writing? What if I start throwing some stories together and seeing where things go? And so it was one of those things where I just started putting down some ideas and figuring out kind of what I wanted to do if I was going to ever write a series or ever going to write a story. And so I started working on that just a little bit at a time. Not my current series, but some other ideas I had. And after a couple of years of working for the man, I just decided, you know what? I've got a good retirement. I've got a good opportunity to kind of go do what I want to do. And so I'm just going to do it, and I will do it as an indie, right? I'm just going to go. I'll take a year and I'll go write my series. So I did that, and I ended up. I don't know. I was part way through, I was 7 chapters or 13 chapters into book 1, and something popped up on the what's the Facebook group? that Larry Correia runs. I'm not thinking of it, but it's Writer Dojo, the Writer Dojo group, right?
Okay.
And Athon popped in there and said, "Hey, we're looking for stories. If anybody has any," and Writer Dojo it's people that want to, they're writing for production, right? Like they're wanting to be published. So I think that Athon maybe threw in there like, "Hey, this is a good pool of people that I can pull from that is decently motivated to finish their work." And so they popped in and said, "Hey, we're looking for stories. Submit one." And I'm like, "Not a chance. I will never have a chance to do that." And my wife said, "Just submit it. Like just do it." And so I did. So I threw an email at them, and they came back and said, "Hey, we'd like a series from you, right?" And much like you're talking about, Gary, it's a total feel like I'm an imposter. Like this is not something that it should have ever happened.
Well, it's funny you mentioned school, because I swear to God, the minute I signed that contract with Athon, every single English teacher I ever had in school got a chill up their spine.
Exactly.
Like, right. There's a disturbance in the force right now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I get a kick out of that stuff because a lot of people feel publishing is extremely hard, and Athon is one of those few diamonds in the rough that it's made it easier, where they're open to anybody. Like you send in your first 50 pages. That's what I did. The next day they asked for the rest of the book. I was like, holy crap, really? And then a week later, I have a 3-book deal with this publishing company that has been publishing some of my favorite authors and books for the past like 3 or 4 years now. So just even being a part of this, like I got the T-shirt, I have a cup somewhere. Like I totally went full fanboy. But it was just that feeling of acceptance from something like that, right? Because when I started writing purely for therapeutic reasons, get stuff out of my head and onto paper. It was basically my point, to where I actually realized, you never want to turn back time, because I'm very happy with the way my life is. But I wish I would have discovered this outlet 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And KDP, the KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, that entire system on Amazon has opened the floodgate for so many writers out there, because before Amazon, there was nothing. There was traditional publishers, and especially in our genre, military science fiction, traditional publishers are not kind. If you're not Robert Heinlein, they're not going to look at you. So it's a huge opportunity out there, so take it. If you're watching this and you want to, and you're thinking about writing, KDP is your friend. Learn it, go there, visit the site, sign up an account, and do your research. We're gonna do it by the numbers. We'll take you from the beginning to all throughout production, and share our ideas and our experiences the entire time. So
we're also going to share our link to our Discord. So right now it's just the 3 of us. But we have a Discord set up where we want to talk to you. We want you to talk to us. We want to interact with everybody who has a question. We're hoping that eventually we will be able to bring guests on. It all depends on those like and subscribes. But when we start bringing guests on, we want to actually have an open, okay, we're going to have these people on. What are questions you would like to ask these people? Let us be your conduit to the publishing side of the house. Because yes, having our names attached to Athon does open a bit of credibility for us, and we want to use that to help you guys, because we're still you guys. There's no, like, we're not millionaires, we're not, we're still just 3 people trying to write and tell stories, and we found a passion for it, and we want anybody to get into this, because the more stories out there, that's more creativity, which is better than all the negativity we're dealing with now, right?
Yeah, there's a couple points there that I think are salient for us to make. And you guys both mentioned it. The first thing is, there's a million podcasts out there where you're getting advice from people, right? And what I really wanted from this podcast, I think what you guys wanted too, was for us to all walk this together, right? Because we're all new authors learning together and kind of figuring this out as we're going. Like, what's Elon Musk's famous thing is like fail forward, right? Where like you're continually you're always falling down, but you're falling forward, right? And so that's where I want to see us go. And so I would love to see people sign up early, and let's all walk this journey together, because it's doable, right? If the 3 of us are capable of writing books, and putting good stuff out there. Really, anyone is, and so I would love to see authors jump on and we got together because of a Discord channel, and because we were able to kind of hook up and be like, oh, this is the struggles you're having right now, and this is the struggles you're having right now. I'm in the same boat, and we're all three kind of having the same thing go on, right? Mm-hmm. So struggle together, I guess is what I'm saying. So this is a great opportunity for people to jump in, have that cohort, really, where you're with other authors doing the same thing, and hopefully you're all on the same page kind of going forward, right? So it's like you're looking to be a published author who wants to write to market and do those things that you need to do. Writing for your own good is that's great too, but we're all in that boat where we want to ultimately be decently recognized within our genres, right? I think that's what we're all going for. So we want you there with us. So that's
everybody who writes is
agreed. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so we would love it if you'd be a part of our Discord. And we're not into spamming people and pushing a bunch of stuff on them. But
I wouldn't even know how to do any of that,
thing. So
you're fine.
That's very true. We're stumbling through this thing together right now, right? So we're.
And if you're a romance author, you can jump in and teach us about your genre, because that would be something in the Discord, a Discord community where people could talk about other genres, really, that we're not necessarily familiar with. We can speak to our own genre, but
our main focus is to show how fiction books are pretty much similar on the stories, the advertising, the releasing.
Oh, the structure, yeah, the structure and fundamentals are going to be universal. So
and I also want to add, this isn't going to be just.
I think Will is telling us that his next series is going to be a romance series about Viking longboats. Is I think where he's going with
in
that.
Space.
He really wants to write some.
I've already written Vikings in space. I'm not so sure if I'm going to throw romanticy into it. Like,
do a heated rivalry on the bridge.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gary, I cut you off there. I was trying to get a joke.
Oh, don't worry about it. I just want to stress too, this isn't just going to be about our successes that we have too, right? Like there's some serious struggles when it comes to writing, writer's block. I was lost in a chapter for a week and a half. I couldn't figure out how to write it. I wish I would have known these guys, because now we actually throw things at each other. So networking, everything is just so important. But never giving up on yourself is the biggest thing I want to push today on our first episode is, if you're sitting down and you're writing a book and you care enough to YouTube or whatever and see this and you're thinking, hey, maybe these guys can help me in some little way, we want to help you. That's why I'm just saying, like and subscribe. We're going through this as much as you are. We might have a bit more books out there and have a bit more experience, but we all started with you. And not too long ago, like I signed with Athon in September.
Yeah.
And so you write this book, you get published. One thing okay, so I think I was making the joke to you, Will, that I've gotten 2 books. I finished 2 books of my first series. I finished the first book of my new series. I've got 2 book deals, and I haven't published a single book yet. But then it's all happening. So book 1 of Survivor's War, May 19th. Book 2 is coming out in August. Book 1 of Fracture Point is probably going to be in the fall sometime. So it does happen fast, but you got to have that patience and that patience and that sheer will to keep writing your story.
And that's
the hard thing about us. When you're writing, you're in your room with your blinders on, doing your thing, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't have at least a little bit of community, I found that once I found you guys and I found the other podcasts and some of those things, it's hugely helpful just to have somebody to bounce some stuff off of, or to feel like you're a part of something rather than just locked in your room putting down.
Yeah, don't do this in a vacuum. There's no reason to do it in a vacuum. And I do want to stress one tip before we conclude our wonderful first episode. Is the most common thing that a writer is going to experience is Okay, situation. You just started a new POV or maybe a new chapter, and you're staring at the screen. You have an outline maybe, and you have the structure of what you want to write, but you're struggling just to crank out that first sentence, and you're staring blankly at a screen. We've all been through it. Trust me, it is way more common than you think.
Yesterday.
What I am going to suggest is all you have to do is know who the main character of that scene is, whose POV it is, and the setting. If you can dial in those two things, then just set the scene. Describe what's going on. And then you'll find that through the character's experience, how they're interacting with their environment, what they're doing, what they're thinking, will get your juices flowing, and the next thing you know, you've got 2-3 pages going and you're cranking.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
or even just stepping away and taking the dog for a walk or doing something just.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're halfway through the walk going, oh, I got to get back to my laptop because I got this now. It's just have confidence in yourself and don't worry about how it sounds because you'll write what you write. It's either people are going to love it or they're not, but just write the story.
Yeah,
Because
just
not writing the story is the first failure.
well, setting the scene is the first step to writing any scene. So you set the scene and roll with it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But yeah, so we've hit our time for today, and we hope everybody liked it. So our next episode is going to focus more on what Will just said, is setting the scene. We'll give you our point of views from where we started with our books and areas that we had issues with, and we'll keep going through the process from there.
Yeah. Hey, thank you all for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we would love for you to be a part of our community and just go along with us. So welcome to the ride. We'll catch you guys later. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us.